Okay, so I said we're starting right away, and then I was diving into the question. So I said that so let's take things from the basics. Is my age right? So in terms of art skills, right? What are the essential art skills that you think the graphic designer needs to master? Given that they are competing at an international level, because part of the things we are talking about here is that how can they position themselves for international opportunities? How can you be working from Nigeria and you're probably earning in dollars? So you're working with um, companies in Nigeria, but are paying you in thousands of naira, right? In six figures now. How do you position yourself? What are the art skills that you need to learn to master as a graphic designer?
All right. Please let me know if I'm audible.
You are very audible, please.
All right. Thanks once again for this platform and thanks for the opportunity to be able to share a bit of knowledge. So, first of all, what I'll say regarding that is anyway, before I even go into that, for those that might not really be familiar with the terms we are using, so we have to differentiate between hard skills and soft skills. So basically, hard skills are just referring to the technical knowledge or sort of educational knowledge you might have gained, maybe through training, through taking a course, or through any form of tutorial or platform where you can gain that experience. So it's not necessarily about, it's not, I mean, it's not about character, it's not about behavior or interaction, it's more about intelligence, more about technical ability and capacity to be able to execute demands. When on the other side, which is the soft skill, they are more referring to character related skills, knowing how to interact with your colleagues, with your superiors, with your subordinates in the workplace, and just basically things that have to do less with the actual work, but more with how you relate with those in the workplace. So, with that being said, the art skill I consider as the priority for you to be able to scale in terms of gaining more traction, gaining more client base, and ultimately gaining more projects on an international level is for you to actually focus on getting proficient with the application or the softwares or whatever tools you use for your job. And I know it's more or less like a low brainer. It's what you most likely hear anyway. But as easy and as straightforward as that sounds, you find out that a lot of people are more concerned about trying to just look for the opportunities or trying to just market their skill rather than trying to actually improve on their proficiency level. And what happens most of the time is either, when the visibility eventually comes, the skill set is not really at the standard which the clients are looking for, or the portfolio or whatever proposals you are putting out can't even get to the kind of audiences you are looking for because it doesn't have the kind of quality that they are looking for. So that is why I would rather put, proficiency in terms of your tools, your industrial tools, your industry standard tools for whatever role you are trying to executing. I'll put that as the major hard skill you should focus on, or hard skill you should focus on in terms of development. Then when you are done with trying to build your skill, trying to build your proficiency, the technical knowledge, you can now focus on trying to market. And to be honest, I feel like the marketing aspect of things is actually the easy part because once you can do good work, the reward for good work is more work. So chances are you will do a job for a client and then the client starts referring you to another client, or someone else might just see what you did, on the client platform, and they're like, wow, who did this? And then you get referred. So most of the time you find out that's what happens. You begin to build that client base over time. So yes, the two things I would rather recommend as hard skills to focus on is building of proficiency and also marketing, but putting more priority in building your proficiency because ultimately that's what will make you go far and build a wide client base and ultimately lead to the success of your career. Yeah, so that's my answer, Bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response, Ismail. I think that was very apt and direct. So it's a low brainer. It's the what's it called? The answer that you have near you, but so that you are not going to Shokodo to look for the answer. It is ensure that you are working on your craft, whatever platform it is. During this session, I asked us what platform do you prefer? Whatever platform it is that you're using, ensure that you use it so well that you are the best at it, right? So, and once you are the best at it, you can always position yourself as a very good designer for clients to want to reach out to, right? I believe that for every skill set, every whether it is Illustrator or what is Photoshop or it is Canva that you're using, there are opportunities for all of these tools. That's one thing I believe. And for some of the people that are on this call that are probably debating whether they should use Photoshop or Canva is better and all of those things, whatever it is that you want to focus on, please pick the tool that you know that you are comfortable to do your design in or you're happy with, right? Or you like. I mean, there's that part as well. And owning your skill on it. And once you are good at it, look for opportunities that is in the line of the tools that you have learned. So you get very pretty straightforward. So thank you very much for that response, Ismail. So my second question is part of the thing that many designers struggle with is finding a niche, right? They don't know whether it is brand identity they want to focus on or just doing logo, right? Or probably just doing social media, working with, what do we call it now? Advertising agency. You know, when you work with advertising agency, um, um, you do more of marketing design, developing marketing collaterals and things like that, right? So designers are finding it difficult to what niche should they focus on. There's also motion graphics when we are talking about graphic design. So they are finding it difficult that what niche should they focus on. So how can we, right? How can someone that is just starting out identify the area of graphic design that is best suited to their strengths and interests? How do they identify what are the key steps that they need to follow just to identify their.
All right. So in response to that, what I would say is for anyone having challenge trying to find the area of focus or the niche where they want to build for themselves, it's an obvious sign that you are not yet um, you don't have a lot on your hands yet, right? And why do I say that? I say that because it's in the course of getting involved in so many activities, in so many subdivisions of whatever profession you want to specialize in. It's in the course of engaging all these different activities that you eventually begin to specialize. So what happens is you begin to get more demands for some certain kind of roles, and your passion will also increase because you are getting the results you are seeking, in the course of achieving your targets, your KPIs, and your requirements for, those specific roles. So what I'll say, as response to that is you need to first of all get your hands dirty. If you're not sure what niche or what area you want to focus on, you need to start doing more. You need to start getting, involved in as many tasks as possible, exploring as much opportunity as possible. Say, for example, in the design field, you can get your hands into UI UX. You can start doing prints, you can do illustrations, you can do animations, you can do branding. You just explore, just start doing as many things as you can. And the truth is, as you get more busy, as you get more involved, over time you begin to see that your interest and your passion will start going towards a certain direction. And as you grow, over the years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you begin to discover that, oh, I think I'm more comfortable, in this particular role, or I get more demands, I get, more positive responses whenever I do XYZ. So essentially, what I would say is experience is a very key factor in terms of knowing your niche, because you will need to explore, and then it's in the course of exploring as time goes on, you now discover that okay, this is where I actually am. And it's sort of subconscious. It might not be an actual moment where you just wake up and say, oh, this is where I want to spend the rest of my career working. You just see that over time, you spend a couple of years and then you're like, wow, this is where people actually recognize you, and then you just find out that you find it easier to remain there, in a longer scale of time. So, like I said earlier, get your hands dirty, do as much as you can, and then over time you begin to specialize in the area you are thriving and you are succeeding in.
Get your hands dirty, get yourself busy. That is the secret to finding what it is that you can specialize in. So you've had it. It's very, very important, and I believe it's very key as well. Before you can say you want to specialize, I think sometimes you actually need to be a generalist, right? So that you can be able to, test the waters, know what works for you. And as time goes on, I think one other thing that Ismail mentioned is it takes, for different people anyway, but it takes time for you to know. And when we meet time, it means that you need to actually be in the midst of, work on different projects to be able to identify what specific things it is that you enjoy do more, or depending on the opportunity that comes to you and all of that. So very important. So get your hands dirty. Thank you so much for that, Ismail. So moving on to the next question. So soft skills often make the difference between a good designer and a successful one, right? There are so many good designers, but what makes people stand out is the soft skills that they have. So what soft skills have you found crucial in your own remote design career, especially when you're dealing with international clients? What soft skills do you think is very important in your career?
All right. So I think we've already addressed hard skills before. So now moving on to soft skills. Like I said earlier, it's just basically how you interact, how you relate, and how you work seamlessly with your clients, your colleagues, your superior, or your subordinates. So oftentimes you find people that have the proficiency or they have the experience with a certain job role or a certain expectation, and then you might not discover that they have deficiency in terms of their soft skills, how they relate with people, how they interact, how they communicate, and then because of that, they might now start having issues. And in the long term, I'd rather say the soft skill is much more should be treated as a priority because eventually that's what will guarantee longevity in terms of your career. And this is regardless of whatever field or whatever role you are trying to venture into. Because you find a lot of talented people that don't really go so far. You know, they have the natural intuition to get the necessary results, but because of the basic, terrible soft skills, which is kind of reducing their productivity, over time, you find out that someone that's rather focused on building their soft skills, they are determined, they are consistent, they relate well with people, they consider time management, they consider efficiency. You find out that exponentially they begin to grow, and then eventually they tend to perform more than those that are actually talented or more proficient. So that being said, the two soft skills I'll consider as priority would be first of all communication. It's important for you to be able to communicate well with your subordinates, to communicate well with your superiors. Say, for example, you have challenges in certain tasks, you have blockers and hindrances that are making your delivery to be affected. It's good for you to communicate, to speak out and let them know so that they can help you to remove those blockers and then help you to achieve what you want to achieve. Then it's good for you to always speak out, be vocal. Like, don't close yourself up. Don't try to internalize whatever challenges you're having because eventually that's also going to affect your productivity. And you don't want a case whereby you're having challenges trying to deliver your task or your expectations, and then due to lack of ability to be able to communicate or lack of ability to be able to interact and pass your message across, you now start dropping the ball, and then eventually it seems like you're not effective. And another thing I also like to mention is that you need to be careful about how you communicate because people can perceive mediums of communication in different ways, and it can sort of, if you're not careful in the way you communicate, it can sort of pass across the wrong message because there's a way you can say the same thing, but the tone of your address or the tone of the way you speak, tone of the way you communicate to people can pass that same, that same word or that same phrase, that same sentence in the wrong way. So you need to be conscious of how you communicate to people, the tone of voice. You're sending an email, you're sending WhatsApp message, you're communicating on Slack. You need to make sure that the tone of your voice is as polite as possible, just so that you can get the necessary thing you need from the person without any unnecessary controversies. And aside from communication, another thing I'll mention is empathy. And empathy is just basically putting the consideration of whoever you're working with in terms of whatever you want to do, put them into consideration to make sure that you don't do anything that will affect or that will truncate their own productivity. So dealing with your superior, for example, you need to understand that they also have people they report to, and it's your delivery and your productivity that will determine their own success and their own evaluation. So you need to put that into consideration and make sure that you do the necessary things you have to do in order to make the work of your superiors easier. In the case of your subordinates, you need to put yourself in their shoes. Say, for example, you're handling a role maybe as a senior in a certain role, a supervisor in a certain role, and then you talk to people anyhow, or you expect unrealistic results from people. That can also affect your own productivity because you are also the same way your subordinate is reporting to you, are also reporting to some sort of authority or some sort of superior. So you need to make sure that they have the necessary tools they need, they have the necessary resources they need for them to execute, and for you to be able to give them that, for you to even recognize that those needs actually exist. It takes a lot of empathy. So in the course of that, you discover that when you have empathy and then you put people into consideration, people like to engage with you. When they create reviews and surveys regarding your performance, you tend to get high rating, and ultimately you start getting promotions and start getting more progress in your career. So, in summary, what I would say are the two major soft skills for you to put into consideration or to implement in your working in your career and your working process is communication and also empathy. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Ismail. So I want to believe that we are looking at the progression of some of the advice that is being given. First of all, we have talked about harnessing your hard skills. Make sure that you are proficient enough in whatever tool that you are learning, right? Then after proficiency, we talked about some of this. We are talking about some of the soft skills that you need, right? And Ismail just mentioned I like two of the soft skills that you need to focus on to be successful as a designer: communication and empathy, which is very important. One last thing that we'll add to it, because also we are discussing on some of the opportunities, how you can position yourself for opportunities, that you have to learn the skill of networking, right? You have to learn the skill of networking. So I remember attending a webinar, an interior designer was asking a question that how do I get high network individuals? So this is a question of I already have the skill, I'm already good. How do I ensure that I get customer? So part of the responses that stuck with me was that look at the people that that precede your own role, or that precedes. You look at the value chain and looks at the profession that precedes you in your value chain. So, for instance, the interior designer, as an interior designer, what precedes an interior designer is a real estate developer. What precedes an interior designer um, is a real estate developer, is an architect, is a builder, and things like that are the things that precede a real estate, the things that precede an interior designer. It makes sense for the interior designer to be in the network of those people that precede his own position on the value chain. So it means that if a real estate developer finishes developing finishes developing, and the owner of the house wants to do interior design and is asked, "Do you know anybody?" Chances are that you are part of the, especially if you have a very good relationship with the person and you're delivering quality services, chances are that he's going to refer you on that particular project. The same thing applies when it comes to design as well. Network with people that has the potential to get projects and bring you on projects. So say for instance, a digital marketing lead or a digital marketing consultant should be in your network. These are people that actually get projects and they need designer on the project, right? Another option is to network with how do I put it? It's to be in a network of CEOs or be in a network of trainers. These are people that need slides often than not, right? So just identify that what's it called? That position before your own position on the value chain and network so well with them. Those are the ways that opportunity comes to you. I hope that is very helpful. All right. So moving on, thank you for your response, Ismail. So moving on, I believe that personal branding is one very critical thing when it comes to standing out as a graphic designer, and also given the fact that this particular industry is a crowded market, if you understand what I mean, right? So how do a designer build a personal uh, brand, right, that resonates with clients, especially international clients? What step can designer take to do the same so that they are positioning themselves for opportunities from a personal branding perspective?
All right. So when it comes to personal branding, what I will first of all recommend is the person has to first of all go through the phase of self-discovery. And although that is a never-ending process, but at least to the point whereby you can say this is what I'm passionate about, or this is what I see myself doing in 5, 6, 7 years from now. So, like I said initially about getting your hands dirty, this also involves exploring, trying a lot of things, because there is a way you can actually be proficient in a certain career or in a certain role, and then you might get comfortable or complacent in that role because you feel, oh, I've been able to achieve some um, minimum level of success. So I think I'm comfortable where I am. You won't want to try new things. And unknown to you, you might actually have the skills or the talent and the natural ability to be able to perform well and to thrive in other roles. But if you don't explore them, how exactly are you going to know that you even have those skills? So that is where getting busy comes in. You need to do as much as possible, get involved in as many roles, even if it's voluntary roles, might not necessarily be roles you get to get paid for, but just for you to get that experience and okay, do I really like this thing? Do I really have the interest? Then over time you begin to recognize, okay, this doesn't work for me, this works for me, this is where I want to measure, this is what I want to be doing. And then you look back in a couple of years and say, okay, this is where I started. I was doing all of this, and then now I specialize in this particular role. And that is when you start getting recognized, and you yourself, your confidence begins to grow because you know that yes, I've actually put in the time and put in the work. So where conversations are going on, where communities are gathering, you have something valid to contribute because you have the necessary experience, and that is how personal branding actually comes in. So it's not a case of, oh, you just wake up one morning and then, oh, I've branded myself, now I can go. No, it's a continuous process. As you engage, as you keep activity, as you keep doing what you're doing, you begin to find out, okay, this is what I like to do, this is what I don't like to do. As you're also discovering yourself, the public is watching you. Eventually, you begin to recognize, okay, there's this guy is very consistent, he's always posting, he's always talking about that. And then before you know what's happening, your confidence is there, and then people also recognize you, okay, this guy, in terms of so XYZ, this is he has built a niche for himself, or he's recognized, right? So personal branding, like I said, is about self-discovery to take some time. Then aside from self-discovery, interest, and passion, you also have to consider networking, like Blessing rightly mentioned, because this community sort of serve as an incubator for your productivity and the opportunity for you to be able to thrive in your chosen field. So when you are in those communities, you are engaging, you are having conversations, you are consuming content, eventually it begins to build a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in you. And then you find out that over time, people that you connect to sort of inspire you to also perform better in that role. So that's where networking comes in. You need to find those communities, those platforms, be it online or even be it offline, engage with them and make sure that you're in constant communication. Then obviously consistency in terms of your presence, both online and offline presence, as regards activities within your sphere. And then eventually you discover that over time you've been able to build a brand for yourself. So yeah, that would be my answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is my consistency, always showing up. I think that's one of the key things that I take from your response, and I believe that every other person on the call is also hearing that. So consistency, right? I think to further buttress that matter of consistency, if you have a platform where you are showcasing your portfolio, ensure that you are showing up, and you have all of your recent portfolio, present project updated on that platform. I know it amazes me when many designers are looking for opportunity and you have to send your portfolio, and what you're sending is just your CV, PDF of your CV. Like, how do we make sense of it? What will show that you know what you are doing is your portfolio. So if you can harness all of the platform that's available, whether it is Behance, Jibo, whatever you want to use to show your portfolio, right? Ensure that it is up to date, ensure that it's very recent project that you're working on. And beyond just putting flyers on this platform, ensure that you are using some bit of storytelling when you are putting your portfolio. Let us know what the problem is, how you are solving it, what exactly did you do to solve the problem. These are the things that what's it called? The potential clients or prospects wants to see, that will make them recognize that, oh, you actually have the skill set, you're actually thinking the problem. Because one of the things that you should recognize as a designer is that you are a problem solver. You are not just designing, you are solving a problem. So they want to see your creative thinking. How did you think through the problem? Very important. So it is important that you are showing up through your portfolio. And in terms of personal brand, I think if you want to take it up a notch, you might also want to use platforms like LinkedIn. And when you're on LinkedIn, make sure that just kind of the way you are projecting your project is different from how you're putting it on Behance, because it's not just about posting that you've done a particular project on LinkedIn. You also want to use a storytelling approach. I classify LinkedIn like a workplace, a global workplace where everybody is there talking about what they are doing and things like that. You also can talk about what you are doing as well. So it's very important. Then you can also through videos. Let us see your process behind the scene, how you are working on the project, a day in your life. What does it look like? What tools are you using? Give us information, give us update. Those are the kind of things that your prospect will look at and make you stand out even when you go for interviews like that. And they say send in your portfolio, right? You are sending in not just your portfolio, you are sending in track records, all of the things that you have done. So you are putting your Instagram handle, your LinkedIn handle, and they are seeing information that has to do with the project, and they know that you actually understand what you are doing. So please, very, very important. And be consistent with all of these things, just like Ismail has mentioned. Thank you so much for that response, Ismail. So moving on, we talk about the next question I want to ask is about portfolio development, which is one of the I just mentioned. So portfolio development may somewhat be challenging for beginners. So what advice would you give for beginners to create a very compelling portfolio? Given that this is one of, if not the major tool of how clients to know or prospect to know that you actually deliver on the job. So what are the advice that you can give?
All right. Thanks for that question. So when trying to develop a portfolio, truth of the matter is there are several ways and several platforms, through which you can display your portfolio. And the diversity of these multiple mediums has made it very easy for you to actually put your work out there and present it in a very engaging and attractive way. Well, what I'll say about that is before you decide to develop your portfolio, you might want to do some research. So go on Behance, go on the likes of Dribble, there are even the likes of ArtStation, DeviantArt. There are so many, and thank God for AI tools. We can actually check some of these things within a split second, and then we can engage. So yes, you will need to go online, do your research. So look at the sort of portfolios you feel, yes, this is a standard portfolio, right? Generate like maybe 8, 9, 10 of them, put them together somewhere, then start to do your review. So when you're doing that review, you're trying to like sort of put it side by side with what you have and say, okay, what's the standard, and what do I need to do in order to get to a point whereby my portfolio speaks for me. The moment they open my portfolio, I don't need to engage in so much conversation. It just closes the deal for me. And if you're not there, then that means there's a lot of work to be done. But you always constantly have to keep making that research and making that reference, just opposing what you're doing with what is going on a global standard. Because if you're not doing that, you might be actually underperforming, or due to lack of exposure, you will feel, oh, I'm comfortable. I worked over the night. I spent 2 months developing this portfolio, so there's no way anybody will tell me my work is not good. But alas, by the time you put it side by side with someone else, in another part of the world where there's a whole lot of competition, there's a whole lot of activity, you now begin to see that, wow, what the hell am I doing with my life? So you need to actually have that what the hell am I doing with my life feeling over and over and over and over again. So you point you're like, wow. So you are inspired, like you're fired up. When you wake up in the morning, you want to do it because you feel like you're behind. So it works. It might seem like it's like you're not appreciating, but it actually works in your favor because it helps you to keep on your toes, to keep on trying to get better. And then the more references you make with those top quality works, the better your productivity and the kind of work you are putting out. So you spend more time, do your research, put all of these references together, and then create your design portfolio from there. The other thing you can do as regards that is you can also design sort of like proposals. Like when I say proposal, I don't mean you draft a Google Doc and then begin to type details of what you want to do for a brand. No, I mean you can pick up brands and then you can do something engaging on them. Like just pick up a Guinness, for example. Do a very interesting, creative, a very interesting content, put it together. Take your time to work on it and then put it out there. So quite right, yeah, you might put it out and then you most likely not hear from them because these are giants, these are people that are established, so they probably have their client base in terms of who they deal with for their advertising and all sorts of communication mediums. But what happens is in the course of that, other smaller brands or other brands that are still considerably valuable, that still have some level of value to offer you, would see that creativity and they want to leverage it. So if you target those top brands, yeah, you might not necessarily be able to reach them, but I think they say aim for the stars so you can land on the moon. So it's more about the quality of the work you are doing than the brand. Because once you are doing that level of quality and you are targeting those high brands, even the ones at the mid level will see what you are doing and they will engage you. And because of time, you will now find yourself moving into bigger rooms, opening bigger doors, and then eventually working on those very big brands that you want to work for. And yeah, I think I already mentioned juxtaposing your work with other designers. So that's very, very important. Make sure you are going online. In fact, as a matter of fact, every day, like when you wake up, you open all these communication mediums, open these social media platforms, check for those guys that are top performers, and then see what they are doing. Because your constant engaging in that helps you to improve, helps you to see where you are and where you still need to meet up. It's just like the same logic of someone that is not informed, like someone that has not watched the news, you don't read the newspaper, you don't check the blogs, you won't know what's going on, you'll be misinformed. And when you are misinformed, you are deformed. So that kind of logic still appeals to career in terms of how you are improving, how you are growing, and how well you are performing. So you need to constantly be engaged, know what people are doing, know the distance or the level you need to cover in terms of your skill, and then your how efficient you are, for you to now know, okay, this is how far I've gone, and then this is how much work I still need to put in to get to that standard. And then eventually, when your work starts becoming very, very reputable, you won't even be the one to notice it. You'll be too busy working at this. People around tell you, wow, this is really nice. So you just find out that brands that you never imagined will start contacting you and saying, oh, can we work together? And that's the point, that, yeah, I've actually been putting a lot of work, and then the work starts to pay off. So yeah, that would be my answer to trying to develop a good portfolio.
That was very profound, very profound, very profound. The one that you talked about, picking up a brand and just doing a project on that particular brand, or probably just look at some of the problems that they have and identifying those problems and solving that problem, stuck with me. I remember a scenario on LinkedIn. So there's this guy on LinkedIn that they call Daniel Priestley. He's one of the biggest when it comes to entrepreneurship. He's big on entrepreneurship, and it teaches a lot of entrepreneurs how they can generate leads for their business, various methods and things like that. I mean, he's just a straight up marketing and sales guy, right? So this guy is very big. He just had a recent interview on the Diary of the CEO, Stephen. I can't remember his name, Stephen. Anyway, well, so at the back of that, there was a designer, right? What he did was that he checked all of the slides. Fortunately for him, he also attended Daniel Priestley. What do you call it now? He has attended Daniel Priestley sessions before. So he said that the slide that was not, it wasn't well optimized. It wasn't, the branding was not speaking well. So he did like a work on it, and he posted it on LinkedIn. Lo and behold, Daniel Priestley directly reached out. I mean, you can check out Daniel Priestley. I think if you search on LinkedIn, you probably will see it. He just sent him a what's it called, a comment that let's have a talk. Like, let's have a meeting. Let's discuss this. This thing that you just did online. Let's discuss it. And believe me, we are not talking of $5,000 projects. It definitely will be around around the 10,000 and 20,000. Do you understand? So that stuck with me, and I think it's something that we can also learn from. You don't have to, because a lot of us are looking for clients to actually build their portfolio. It doesn't work that way. You need to look for dummy projects, whether it is something that you see, another brand that you see online. Another way you can also do is that all of these remote platforms that you want to work on, go to those platforms. You see the brief, copy the brief, work on the brief as if you are being paid to do the brief, right? What you are doing is, what's it called? You are building a portfolio. And all of this that we are mentioning, Ismail, it seems as if it is hard work. It doesn't seem, because a lot of people have the notion that maybe when you do graphic design, you're working from home, you are living a large life, nothing, it's just an easy life for you, right? Which will make me to jump to my next question. When it comes to working remotely, right? Because there's that notion that once people work remotely, people are probably not doing anything at home. You wake up anytime that you like, you don't like. So remote work, I believe, requires a high degree of self-discipline and time management, right? So what systems would you, or routines would you, or have you put in place? Because I mean, I've worked with you, I've seen you work directly and all of that. So what system have you put in place to ensure productivity and meeting deadlines, especially, I mean, with clients in different time zones?
All right. Thank you for that question. So first things first, I'll just say, the answer is already in the question, which is routine. You need to create a routine. and you need to adhere to that routine. And as simple as it sounds, it is not that easy to do. Right? It's easy for me to just pick up a pen and paper and say, okay, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. By the time you wake up and then you check the time, like, oh, let me just sleep for another 30 minutes. You wake again and say, let me sleep for another 30 minutes. And then before you know, your time is gone, you're rushing, trying to meet up. And then before you know what's happening, the entire so-called routine is, out the window. And then you find yourself doing all kinds of things, things that are not priority. And then by the time you check your clock, is already 10 p.m. and then you're like, okay, what exactly did I do today? Like, what did I do? You can't even look back and say, okay, this is what I was able to achieve. And that scenario goes on, into a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, before you know it, the whole year is gone. And then you're like, okay, there's no tangible result to show for the time spent. So that is why adhering to creating a routine and adhering to routine is very, very, very important. Trust me, it's not easy. We all go through that challenge of, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, but you begin to procrastinate, or even challenges you didn't preempt, begin to come up, and then you have to sort of reschedule. But what I'll just say is this, your ability to adhere to your routine, the chance of your success in your career lies in your ability to adhere to your routine. Like, the chances of you being able to adhere to your routine determines your level of success, or how well you're going to do in terms of where you want to be in the future. So if you are creating routine and then you cannot, adhere to it in a single day, trust me, you just find out that you have a lot of goals, you have a lot of target you're trying to smash, and then over time you just discover that you're not able to achieve it. It's not because when you set those targets, you didn't actually want to achieve them, but it's all about milestones. If today you look at your to-do and say, okay, you are not able to achieve it, a little drop eventually turns into an ocean. So you might, if in that case scenario, if you check through your routine maybe in the night or when you're done work, and then you see that, oh, I was able to achieve X, Y, Z, it might seem like, okay, you didn't do anything, but trust me, if you can keep on repeating that the next day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, a week, you discover that over time, within 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you've achieved so much by just doing so little. And I think there's this thing about is it 1,000 for 1,005 hours? Like, if you want to build a habit, you need to do something 1,500 times before it becomes second nature. And if you calculate that, that's roughly around 2 months. So what that essentially means is you don't have to keep on struggling. The way you struggled on day one will not be the same way you struggle on day 10, on day 30, on day 100. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So if you're able to adhere to that 1,500 hours of doing that same thing over and over, you discover that the day you don't do it, there will be a problem. Like, it is a psychological thing. You just discover that, I've not done this thing today. It becomes second nature. You just need to do it. And that's how habits are built, be it good habits or bad habits. You've done that thing over and over and over and over to the point where the day you don't do it, it seems like something is wrong. So we need to just build within that 1.5. When we're able to build within that 1.5, the rest is just autopilot. You discover that it's second nature for you to keep on doing that good habit you made. So yeah, create a routine and make sure to adhere to it every day. That is number one. Then mark out your priorities. What are the things you consider as, okay, if I want to say today is a productive day, what and what, if I have 10 things to do, right? If I list out 10 things on my to-do, I will now look at that to do and then pick out 4 things and say, okay, if I want to say today is a successful day, if I want to sleep at night and feel like, yes, I actually did something today, what are 4 things I need to do? If I can do those 4 things, I'm sure that, yes, every other thing can still, linger on. So try to focus on those 4 things. Make sure you cross them as quick as possible. And as soon as you're able to finish them, you can now start moving on to the less priority ones. And then I guess that would require less energy, because the ones that are more important, you've been able to surmount those ones. So that's that as regards routine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 1,005 hours for you to become good at something. So that takes roughly 2 months. If you divide that over 60 days, right, that will be like 25. That 25 hours per week, I suppose. If that's probably 25 minutes every day. If you divide it over the month. So you need to just keep at it every day. Keep at it every day. Very, very important. Keep at it every day. All right. Please, you can start putting together your question. If you have any question, you can drop them on the chat. We are about to we are getting to the end of this particular of this webinar. So please, any question that you have, please let's put them together, and you can put them in the chat, or you can raise up your hand to ask your question. So before I start to take question, Ismail, so let's talk about pricing, right? So which is one of the major issues that across all profession, it's one of the major issues. So, but specifically as a designer, right? What are the strategy that you think one can engage so that your work is not undervalued? Because I think these are one of the very critical part that a lot of designers struggle with when it comes to their work. So pricing is a major issue. So what tips and strategies do you think a designer can employ?
Thank you very much for that beautiful question. I'm sure majority of people on the call today will be more interested in this question than any other one that Blessing has asked before. I mean, who doesn't like money? Everybody likes money. So yeah, thank you for that question. So firstly, what I would say is you need to do your research, right? It's just like the logic is just like in the olden days when people go out to hunt, right? Is that same logic in this modern time? Just that the hunting is different. While they were hunting with spears and sword and shield, we are now hunting with our portfolio, with our laptop, with the value we are trying to offer this client and hoping that we'll get a big kill. So you need to do your research. If you are a hunter and then you don't know where your deer is, you don't know the time of the day to search for your deer, you don't know the type of weapons to use, you just go there and then you come back empty-handed. So you need to actually get that training, get that research. Okay, in so and so place, what are they charging? Do you get in so and so place? What kind of offering? What kind of job offerings do you get in this kind of job roles? What kind of prices or offers do you regularly see? So you can leverage on a lot of job platforms. Even though you don't want to use AI tools, there are so many job platforms. There's Glassdoor, there's Flex Jobs, there's ZipRecruiter. Particularly, I like ZipRecruiter, and I'll recommend ZipRecruiter to a lot of us on the call because there are so many remote jobs you can get there, and chances are you will at least see something that a client that would likely at least engage you and then know if what you are offering is what they are looking for. Because most of these other platforms, I know there can be challenges of you sending CVs or sending applications and then you don't receive responses. But I know particularly on ZipRecruiter, there tends to be a lot of responses. So you can actually try that out. So you make your research, you know what the figures are on an average. Yeah, there's no singular figure for any job role or any locale, but there's an estimate, right? There's an estimate that okay, this is reasonable. So you make your research on these job sites, you put your figures down. Then when you have your figures down, you can now engage the person you are trying to who is trying to give you that role, be it the HR or admin or management or whoever it is you're engaging that wants to give you that job, that project, or that role. So when you are engaging them, one advice I'll give is never make the first offer. Never make the first offer. You have to resound that because it took me a while to learn that, and trust me, I lost a lot of good deals just because of that alone. And why do I say never make the first offer? It's more or less like you are showing your hand, you are disclosing where you're at, and that can be a two-edged sword, right? Different clients deal on different levels, based on different time frames, in diverse ways. So there are so many, the same job you are doing here, right? Someone else in another time zone can be earning times 20, and they might not even be doing half of what you're doing, right? You might not even have up to a quarter of your experience, but yet is earning times 30 of what you are earning. So tell me, how exactly do you gauge the value? That means you have to be very careful how you present yourself. So why I said it's a two-edged sword is because you can actually be engaging a client and then they're asking you, okay, how much are you looking to earn? Let me use a real life case scenario. So there's a story of a guy. He's actually an MC this time, not necessarily creative field, but I believe the same logic still applies. And then he was engaging with somebody, and then they asked him how much. Well, I think it was supposed to anchor a wedding. Yeah, it was supposed to anchor a wedding, and they asked him that how much are you going to collect? So before then, he was lucky enough to speak with one of his superiors that told him, "Oh, bro, when these people engage you, please don't tell them anything. Let them be the ones to give you the first offer, right? And luckily for him, he took that advice. So going into that wedding, what he had in mind is okay, probably just charge these people maybe 100 and something thousand or 150,000 and then get the job done. And trust me, as of that time, it's a couple of years ago, as of that time, 150K is still good money, right? So he's like, yeah, let me just do and then go. But after receiving that advice, I was like, okay, Sam, what are you looking to offer? Like, I will need to know what your range is for me to be able to negotiate, and we can now take a conversation for that. They tried to force him into giving a figure, but he insisted that let them give them what they have to offer, and he will let them know if it's good enough or not. And at last, when they made the offer was something close to 5 million. And it was like, okay, like he was shocked where he was, but he had to just maintain his composure. I was like, and he remembered what his boss said. He was like, 5 million. Can I work with 5 million? And then they began to beg him that, okay, please, we'll just see other things we'll add for it, and we'll add to your we'll add other incentives to the offering. We'll probably rent you a hotel, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, just to go with the money. But please just have to manage it. The budget will have been more, but this is what they have at the moment. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I can manage, I'll take the job. But inside him was jumping and somersaulting because he knew he had just hit the jackpot. So imagine him going into that call and then saying, okay, I think I will charge a 200K. And in his mind, he's like, we really hit the bank. And then they're like, 200K. Obviously, they won't show their experience. Like, sorry, okay, I think we can work something out. And then that will be the end of that call. But trust me, he has lost, close to 4.8 million just by, being complacent in, how you present yourself, or allowing yourself to make the first offer. So it's a very, very risky thing for you to do that. Rather allow them to lay their first offer, and then you can also say, fine, this is what I want to give. And then why I say the two-edged sword is because, first of all, I mentioned about undercharging. There's also the factor of overcharging, right? Here on the other hand, you might know that, okay, these people have the capacity to pay, maybe you collect 100 or 200K, but these people have the capacity to pay 5 million. So because of that, you can now wake up and say, since they have the capacity to pay 5 million, let me just charge them like 10 million, right? And then that goes and say, what I'll charge you is 10 million. And like, 10 million. And obviously, as they're talking to you, they're also talking to other prospects, other potential recruits for the job. So if there's someone else that is within there, maybe charging them a 2 or a 3 million, what do you think they will do? Obviously, they will put you aside, say, his fee is too much, and then they will go with the 2 million person. Meanwhile, that 2 million would have actually been good money for you, but just because you overcharged, you lost that opportunity. So that's why it's important to know the range. Know, okay, this is the kind of amount you rather receive. But more importantly, don't make the first offer. Let the client or the manager or the HR or whoever it is you're engaging with, let them be the one to make the first offer. And when they make the first offer, you can now negotiate and then find a meeting ground. Then lastly, before I drop off on that question, what I'll just say is, if they insist on you giving a figure, or if you find out that you're in a situation whereby you just have to give something, then give them a very wide range, a range that is extremely wide. You can say something like, okay, this same role, a lot of people do, voluntary participation in roles like this, and people still earn up to XYZ in this same role. So it really depends on what the company is willing to offer. That will determine if or not I'm going to engage. So such a thing will put them it will put them in the box so that they have to just be the ones to show their hand. And when they eventually show their hand, you can now negotiate further to the price that works for you. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you very much. That was profound. Thank you. So I want to ask in a specific scenario, maybe this is like a role play. So there are actually brands that expect you to draft up everything and send the proposal to them. As part of the expectation on the proposal is that send what you're going to charge. So how do you play that kind of scenario? Now, given that you're not in a position where you're asking them to tell you how much they want to or what budget they have, right? Given that this is also a service-based business in that sense. So how do you play that terrain where that scenario where you are asked to send your proposal and attach your pricing? What do you?
All right. So in that scenario where you have to draft a document and then put your pitch there, what I would rather say is, first of all, obviously research is important. You need to know the figures. You need to know a range. You might not necessarily know the exact figures that each employee is charging. I mean, it will be a bit different. Maybe some higher, some lower. but you need to have an idea of a range. So let me give a case scenario. Maybe you're trying to apply for a job, and then ideally the range that applies for such job is maybe 3K to 6K, for example. Or let me give you a wider range. Let me say 3K to like 8K, for example, depending on your level and your years of experience.
We are
If
talking
you
in
know
dollars, by the way, so that
that all right, yeah. So, so within depending on your level of experience, let's say a 3K to an 8K. If you know that your level, based on your experience and your years of service, is around maybe a 5K or a 6K, then I would advise that you rather charge that company an 8K, or if possible, say an 8.5 or a 9. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because they say you need to aim for the stars to land on the moon. If 8K is like sort of the highest range that goes for that job, you need to ask for that pay and then expect that they will reject. Is normal. Nobody will hear such high figures and why should we? And then they begin to, okay, what can we do? How do we? Obviously, by that point, they're already convinced that you can deliver the job. It's not a case of, oh, how do we find a meeting point? So when you give them that figure, obviously they will kick back, they will push back and say, no, this is too much. Then by the time you negotiate, you find out that you now land on a price that is considerate. So what does that mean? That means we are looking to achieve a 5K or let's say a 6K, ask for an 8K or 9K. Then by the time you guys start negotiating, eventually you land on that 5K or 6K, and then everybody goes home happy.
thank you. Thank you for that negotiation class 101. Okay, so the other thing I just wanted to add to that is that also I mean, like he has mentioned, I think he mentioned it right in passing. You need to be realistic with where you are as a designer. A lot of people, because they hear that somebody charge this amount for a particular job, you think you can also charge that particular amount. No, because what comes with charging is that by the time you are defending or talking about the charges, you are also talking about what value you are going to bring on that project. Do you understand? So, and where a lot of people get stuck is that you can go ahead and say you want to charge this amount, but so why are you charging the amount is what the client is going to ask. So, what value apart from we'll do the design, we'll do design. It's beyond that. Usually, I tell designers you need to understand even your process back to back, so that when you're in meetings, you are explaining that step by step, and they are seeing value in what you are bringing. That's why I said, first of all, you are a problem solver. So if you think from a problem standpoint that you are solving a problem, it is easier for you to, I mean, gradually mark up because one of the hallmark of people that are charging more, right, is that they're actually strategists. If you can check they're actually strategists. They are not just saying I want to deliver design. They're actually helping the companies and working the company through. So these are the strategy you are going to use to get to the destination that you want to get to as a brand, right? You want to do a brand identity. What emotions do you want? All of this that has to do with brand identity. Those are the things that they are trying to communicate and they're trying to sell at that level beyond just the actual execution of the job, right? But at the same time, know where you are so that you can charge correctly where you are. Do you understand? So I think having peace with that is also very important because it's not just about charging high, it's about the capacity to deliver what you are charging. It's also very important. So know where you are and be comfortable where you are so that you can charge from that standpoint as well. The fact that you're not charging 100,000 or 200,000 on a project today does not mean that you are inefficient or you don't know what you are doing, right? You have to be, what's the word now? Content in your process. There has to be content in your process. When I mean contentment rather is what I wanted to say. There has to be contentment in your process as well. We are still going to charge you 200,000, but currently the stage that you are, you can't charge a 3K dollars. You can't charge a 5K dollars, right? And I'm not saying that to say that you can't do that, but it takes growth to get to that stage. And so, what is important for you when it comes to pricing is as well that you need to grow to whatever it is that you want to charge so that you can comfortably, because it's all about talk, defending what you are charging. That's what it is, right? So, if you can effectively communicate and give value and explain and communicate why you are charging this much and the value you are bringing to the table, it becomes a easy whatever. The last thing I want to add to that is that be comfortable to walk away, right? In the places where you know that this is what you are worth and this is what you want to deliver on the project, and somebody is bringing something that is low, right? be very comfortable because the negotiation. So be comfortable. I mean, to walk away, right? It's also one of the important things I need to learn. I mean, if you actually go for a negotiation class, those are part of the things that they will tell you. He said if there's a deal that you cannot walk away from, you already lose it from the start, right? So be comfortable. Know that you cannot win all of the deals, right? And don't do a project, don't get a project where you are not happy at the end of the day. You understand? You're working on a project, you're not happy. I mean, it's just going to be a bad experience after all because the client itself is not happy and the client cannot refer it to other clients as well. So if it's a project that you know that the pricing doesn't work for you, you've done the match, it doesn't work for you, be all right. It's okay for you to work away that this project, I don't think we can move forward based off the pricing. So please, any question before we round up? Thank you so much, Ismail. I believe that you have one or two questions before we call it a day. I will just pause on my question there. Any question, please? If you have a question, you can raise up your hand. You can drop it in the chat before we close. Um, and I just tell you some of the opportunities of how you can learn. These are one of the things I will talk about. Any question, please? Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay. Patrick, please, you have the floor. You can unmute and speak. Patrick, you can unmute and speak. You have access to unmute your mic.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, very audible. Good evening, Patrick.
Thank you. It's been very informative today. Thank you, Ismail. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for everything. I've really learned a lot today. So my question is, how can a designer, what is the or what would you say is the fastest way for a designer to link up with other designers, like share ideas and the rest? You get. So that's my question. What's the fastest way for a designer to link up with other designers and network? Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you're very welcome. So I like that question. Wonderful question. I think it's important for creatives to always commune together, to interact, because that's what's eventually going to inspire you and help you to grow in terms of your performance and your career. So when you're asking what platforms can creatives like commune and then interact, I would say you can leverage on both online platforms and offline platforms. If you heard when I was speaking, I mentioned some popular design platforms. For those of us, I believe majority of us on the call are design people. So you have the likes of Deviant Art, you have the likes of ArtStation. Everybody knows Behance, everybody knows Dribble. Other than we have Reddit. Um, of course, LinkedIn. So we have some of these platforms. Even if you have any tool, you can always check online and see a long list. We have Flickr. There are so many. There are so many. We have Discord, right? There are so many. So you need to just do a mini research, put your list together, and if you need to create a profile on some of these platforms, you really have to do that, and then start engaging. It's in the course of that you start getting information. You start knowing, okay, go to this website, okay, send your CV to this, send your portfolio to this, and then eventually you discover that you start getting into big opportunities. So those are for online platforms. For offline platforms, you need to keep your ears on the ground. On Twitter, on Instagram, there are a lot of flyers that go about events, talk shows, seminars, workshops. You need to make sure to attend such programs. And when you're attending, you don't just come empty-handed. You come with a business card, or you come with some sort of communication medium you can use to exchange with people there, interact with them. Don't just sit on your seat and then, just be looking at the speaker, and then you maybe are pressing your phone, you're even distracted, and then you leave the event and there's no value you can say you got from it. Listen to the speaker, take necessary information down. If you need to write, if you need to use your notepad. And after the program, don't just walk away. Meet other people, engage, like shake hands with people, share business cards. You discover that eventually, you start building a contact base, you start building a community for yourself, and then you are being able to get the vital information you need to get yourself to the next level. So that's essentially what I'll say to that. Leverage on online and offline platforms to be able to grow yourself and then engage more with the community.
Thank you so much, Ismail. To add to that, also, like Ismail has mentioned, put your ears on the ground. They are being part of challenge on this platform is also being part of a community. So there are certain designers, maybe lead designers that are gone ahead in their career. I mean, that you look up to, that create like a challenge that designers, junior designers, or intermediate designers can be part of, right? And they just put everybody in a group, like a challenge of what you have to do for the next 30 days, or for the next um, whatever days, or for the next whatever month that they put together as far as the challenge is concerned. You can engage that part of the community, because even that community is even a lot better, because now almost every day you guys are showing up and delivering, and the more you put all of these things to use, the better it is for you. All right. So I think we are, what's the word now? We are done with. I just want to go over some of the things. So part of it that we talked about was improve on your art skills. And the Setup Academy is one of the platforms where you can actually do that, and we offer various courses. So if you are looking to learn and to improve your skill on graphic design, you can sign up for one of our classes, right? Our graphic design class, right? And be part of that. So to do that, just go to our website. I dropped it on in the chat session, and look at our offerings, right? As far as that is concerned, you can see what's it called? You can download the syllabus and see what the structure looks like, so that you can have a good idea of what you're going to be taught in class. And trust me, Ismail is one of our Oga Kwata Kwata instructor that will be in the class as well. So there's a lot that you can learn and be part of. So if something that interested, please hook us up, chat us on WhatsApp. Our number is on the website. You can call us directly just to make inquiries and all of that. Good to have you guys in class. Thank you very much, Ismail. We are so grateful to have you today. So much knowledge has been shared.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Alright.
platform. Thank you to our listeners and participants. I really appreciate it.